Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, That Model Railway Guy, and welcome to a different kind of video today because there's something kind of important I want to talk about. If you've seen the title, you probably already know what this is, but first of all, I do just want to say a big thank you to Readly for sponsoring this video. I'll be talking more about them in a little bit, and also if this is your first time visiting the channel, please don't forget to click that subscribe button if you like what you see here. So yeah, the title of this video is, Are My Reviews Biased? And the answer to that is yes. So thank you so much for watching everyone. I'll see you in the next video, and no, it's fine, I'm just kidding. Obviously there's more to it than that, but I do want to dive into the topic of why my reviews are biased, what that means for you guys too, and also how you can better use any reviews that you do decide to watch, both from me but other content creators too, so that you're not going to get led astray. I do want to say that there hasn't been any incident or anything that warrants this video. This isn't a reaction to anything, I guess is what I mean. There's no drama to get involved with, so for those of you getting your 00 gauge pitchforks out, you can put those away. Essentially, I've filmed a lot of reviews recently. Some I've already released, but many of them I haven't yet. And I am aware that since I last did a load of reviews like this, I am a lot more involved in the hobby in a professional capacity. This channel makes up a bigger part of my income. I also get asked to review stuff as well. Obviously, I have sponsorships, as we've just seen, and also occasionally I do work for Rapido UK and other companies as well. So with that in mind, I can see how from the outside there might be a bit of a conflict of interest, and I just want to be transparent and upfront about that. I think there's also an important discussion to be had here about reviews in general and how we consume content within the hobby. So with that in mind, let's dive in. So obviously, as I said right at the start, my reviews are indeed biased, and that might come as a bit of a shock to some of you, but don't worry, we're going to go through exactly what that means. Right out of the gate, I think it's important to clarify here that the vast majority of the models I review on this channel, I buy myself. There are, of course, exceptions to that. I'm going to get to those in a little bit, but for the purposes of right now, the majority of models I review are bought by me with my own money. So in that instance, my bias is that I've already made a decision before purchasing a model on whether I think it's worth it. Do I think it looks good? Does the price seem fair? These are models that I'm buying for my own personal enjoyment. I'm not buying them for the channel. You know, I'm not in a position where I can afford to buy everything that gets released, good or bad, just in order to review it. And I certainly don't have the money to deliberately buy models that I think are going to be bad just so I can get a video out of it. You know, these are models that, like I've said, that I want myself, and as such, I'm going to have a positive bias towards them. I do think as well that generally I tend to have more of a positive mindset when it comes to reviewing locos anyway. I don't particularly like the idea of dragging a model or a manufacturer through the mud or making a big thing out of faults or issues. That's not to say I completely ignore or disregard problems, but you know, I do recognize that there is an element of compromise, which sometimes means that designers do have to make difficult decisions. I think we'd all do well to remember that there are real people who work on these models. You know, they're not made by faceless companies, and in many cases, the designers are enthusiasts themselves. You know, they don't set out to deliberately disappoint us. You know, it is a scale model, and sometimes that does mean making compromises because something is too difficult to reproduce consistently, or even that it's just going to cost too much to make the end result profitable. So yeah, pretty much every model I buy is something that I feel is worth the money. If I don't feel like it's worth it, or if it's something I'm just not particularly interested in, then I don't buy it. It's as simple as that. And I think in all the reviews I've ever done, there's only ever been one model that I didn't recommend, just because the quality control wasn't great. But even then, I was still happy with my model. I just didn't think it was worth the risk for others. But on that note, if there ever has been an issue with a model I've received, I don't slam the product for it. You know, I recognize that usually it's a one-off incident, and I also feel that it's a good opportunity to see how the manufacturer or the retailer responds. You know, do they get back to me quickly? Do they fully replace the model, or do they send out extra parts? I'm willing to hold a review back, like I did with the Class 31 review, for example. I'm willing to hold a review back in these instances until the situation is sorted out, because Personally, I feel that information is more useful for you guys. I don't think me going on a rant about how a model is broken is particularly helpful. It might be more entertaining, and generally, yeah, there is a sense that you are likely to get more attention with a negative review, but personally, I just don't think that's my style. And while I'm not going to ignore any issues, there are more measured ways to address things. However, there is kind of a juxtaposition here with YouTube and creators in general, because channels often get popular not only for the content that they create, but also the personality behind it. There is a sense from me sitting here in this chair that you are being an entertainer, and people latch on to different personalities, especially if they respect those points of view from that content creator and they feel like they can trust them as well. This is true of all media, of course. People who have a favorite band, for example, obviously they like the music, but they probably also like the people who are in that band as well. Or in the film industry, there are tons of people who will go and see a movie purely because their favorite actor is in it. The same is true for YouTube. I don't think this channel would be anywhere near as popular if it was just a faceless company sharing model railway tips. But then we come to the core of the matter, which is because I'm human, I have opinions and biases just like everyone else. When I review a model, there are some things that are important to me and other things which aren't. It's my review, it's my personal thoughts, and I imagine a lot of you guys watch because you're interested to know what I think. You may not necessarily agree with me, and that is absolutely fine, by the way. We're going to get more to that in a bit. But on a fundamental level, my reviews are always going to be biased simply because I'm human and I have thoughts and feelings and opinions just like the rest of you. While we're talking about reviews today, obviously one of the standard places to hear about new models and get news from within the hobby is from model railway magazines. But with so many different magazines out there, which one should you subscribe to? Well, with Readly, you don't actually need to make that decision because with a single subscription, you can access lots of different magazines directly from your smartphone. For model railways in particular, you'll get access to Railway Modeler, BRM, Model Rail, even Garden Rail, and it gives you the opportunity to look at reviews from multiple different sources, which is a really important point that I'll be talking about more later on in the video. Obviously, the benefits are more far-reaching than that, though. For starters, you save a lot of space in comparison to having all of the physical magazines. I know that's a huge benefit for me personally. But also because you have the magazines on your phone, you can read them basically wherever you are. Also, something I don't think I've mentioned before is the fact that you can have up to 5 individual profiles on one account. So it's not like it's just your personal subscription. You can share it with other people in your family, for example. And because there's such a wide variety of stuff on Readly, there really is something for everyone. The great thing is that Readly are currently offering a 2-month free trial, so you can check it out for yourself and see if it's something that you feel is worthwhile. Just click the link down below in the description and that'll get you 2 months to try out Readly for free. You can also cancel at any time too, so you're not locked into anything. But yeah, I found it really useful myself, and I have to say a big thank you to Readly for sponsoring this video today. So I've covered the models which I've bought myself, but what about when I get given stuff for free? What's the situation surrounding that, and is there a conflict of interest there? Well, first off, I should say that it's actually very rare that I get given stuff for free. Accurascale is really the only manufacturer that I deal with who send out review samples both to magazines and content creators like myself, at least on a regular basis. There is also Creality too, who I do some laser cutting videos with as well, but that's not specifically model railways, so you know. Now, if I have received a product for free, I do always make that abundantly clear at the very start of the video. Usually I will not only say that the model was given to me for free, but I will also call out the fact that my opinion may be biased, even if it's in an unintentional way. Regarding YouTube specifically, you have to declare if your video includes any kind of promotion. That's not just being paid for a sponsorship, it includes receiving stuff for free. And usually you'll see a little paid promotion label at the start of a video. I'm not sure about in the rest of the world, but in the UK at least, I believe it's actually a legal requirement for creators and influencers to declare this. But like I said, it's actually very rare that I do get given stuff for free to review on my channel. I do also want to make it clear that no brand has ever had any influence or control over any of my videos. Basically, they all understand that if I'm reviewing their product, I'm going to give my honest view on it. Of course, that doesn't necessarily remove all bias. I've still received something for free, but certainly I don't try to hide any issues. In fact, in some ways, I'll almost go looking for negatives just so the review doesn't seem too glowing. But yeah, generally it comes back to being realistic about what to expect. I do also need to point out that in the past year, I have done some video work for Rapido as well. I don't do all of their videos, but I've done a fair few for them now, and they've also been kind enough to let me share a lot of the footage here on my own channel too. To start with, I've never actually been given anything for free by Rapido, aside from a custom wagon they did for me when they were testing out their new UV printing technique. Apart from that though, I basically work for them as a freelance videographer. I go in, I film a load of stuff, and they pay me. Obviously, I've worked fairly close with them now, I've gotten to know them, and again, it comes back to remembering that there are real people who are working on these products. I suppose you could say I'm less likely to slam one of their products because I know the people behind it, but you know, that's not necessarily just true for Rapido. I do have contacts at other manufacturers as well. But like I've already said earlier in the video, that's not really my style anyway. And you know, to being honest, it does give me a little bit more of an insight into particular models where I've been able to ask questions about why certain decisions were made before the model is released. And honestly, every single time there's always a genuine reason for it. It has also been interesting as well to see that there are differing opinions within a manufacturer and, you know, seeing how they work through that. In exactly the same way that we as modelers have individual preferences, so do the people making these models, and a lot of the time they have to balance what they want to do with what the wider hobby expects of them. And, you know, also what is realistically possible for the factory as well. All this is basically to say, again, yes, my videos may be biased as I start to have more contact with the manufacturers, but I'm always going to be open and transparent about that. You will see as well in some upcoming videos that I have had some issues, and I'm not going to ignore those or shy away from them just because I'm now affiliated with certain companies. But equally at the same time, I'm certainly not trying to hide that I might be biased. And at the end of the video, I do want to talk a little bit about how you can avoid getting drawn into that. Of course, I'm far from the only person doing model railway reviews. There are other creators and magazines and stuff, but if I'm biased, does that mean that others are too? And I'm kind of inclined to say yes. Again, like me, it's not necessarily an intentional thing, but as individuals, we all have our biases, even when we're trying to stay completely neutral. Something that I haven't really touched upon yet as well is that I actually think having a bit of an opinion is a good thing. Some people can find that the magazine reviews in particular are a bit bland, shall we say. Not all of them, but you know, sometimes they can come across as a bit formulaic, or even just as if they're quoting the general specifications of a model. And yes, you get to see high quality images, but often you don't get to see how the model actually performs for yourself. But while magazine reviews can come across as a bit generic, we do have to remember that they're covering a lot of stuff every single month. And often in multiple scales as well. You know, there often just isn't the resources or even the space on the page physically to do a full in-depth review for every item that they get sent. And yes, in most cases, the magazines are looking at review samples rather than things that the writers have bought themselves. I know some people also feel there's a conflict of interest when it comes to manufacturers advertising in the magazines too. I'm not really sure I subscribe to that line of thinking myself, if you'll pardon the pun. There's a lot of implications there, but the simplest thing to remember is that an individual writer of a review isn't getting directly reimbursed by the manufacturer. And also, if something like that was to get out, it would reflect poorly on both the magazine and the manufacturer. That said, personally, I don't rely too much on magazine reviews myself. It's just my personal preference, but I don't really feel like I get much useful information from them these days. Not stuff that I didn't already know. But what about other creators? Well, again, there's a huge range to choose from, and the great thing is that every creator is different. We all have different preferences, opinions, and biases. One reviewer may be really hot on the historical accuracy of a model, while another is more concerned about the mechanism, and someone else is much more focused on how much detail has been included. Like I said earlier as well, sadly, a negative review is also likely to get more of a reaction. So what you do have to be aware of is seeing if the concerns raised are genuine and how much it's being exaggerated to drive more engagement. And I'm not being all high and mighty here and saying that I'm above all this. I have definitely played into that at points. Although I like to think that I, again, come at it from a place of positivity rather than deliberately trying to be negative. There's also a sense of, as you review more and more stuff, you do become more critical, and naturally your standards rise, and it takes more to impress you. You know, not everything can be a 10 out of 10. Again, we see this all throughout media as well. Often critics can be very critical of something, where a general audience reacts more favorably. And that's not to say that you shouldn't watch reviews or that you can't trust anyone. I think it's just more about being aware of this stuff. I say that because there is a large portion of modelers out there who are inherently against YouTubers and influencers in general. I think there's this suspicion that we're all in it only for the money, which in itself is kind of ridiculous. I mean, if you want to make money, then starting a model railway channel is a really inefficient way of going about it. But these skeptics seem to forget that YouTubers are all modelers, just like the rest of the hobby. It's just that their preferred medium is to use video over writing a blog post, say. But it's really frustrating that a lot of people will disregard what someone has to say literally because of the site that they choose to post on. I really find that frustrating, to be honest, and personally I think getting as much data as you can from all different sources is a good thing. The advantage with YouTube, of course, is that you can actually see a model working, and it's difficult to hide how it performs. Even if I say in a video a loco runs really nicely, you can see for yourself if that actually is the case. So we've established that a reviewer having an opinion is not necessarily a bad thing, and that most reviews are going to have some sort of bias anyway. So how do you figure out who to trust? Who do you listen to, and whose opinion should you respect? Well, personally, I think that the only opinion that matters is yours. You, the individual watching this video right now. My opinion doesn't matter. Your friend at the local model railway club, their opinion doesn't matter either. It's all about what you think. That doesn't mean we can't share our different perspectives, but similarly, we can't tell you what to think either. At the end of the day, you're the one going to be paying for a new model, so the choice is up to you. If I say a model is too expensive, but you think the price is okay and you're willing to spend that because you really want that model, why does it matter what some guy on the internet thinks? The other thing as well is not just to solely rely on my reviews, or any single source of reviews for that matter. I might miss something, or there might be a feature that isn't of particular interest to me, so I might not cover it properly. But by watching multiple videos from different sources, you start to build up a bigger picture of what a model is like. This is also handy if a reviewer has an issue with a model. If that same problem is repeated across other reviews too, you start to see a pattern, and most likely it's a widespread issue. And similarly, one single bad review doesn't reflect on an entire range either. It comes back to that negativity bias thing again, where people get a false idea of a model or a product range being faulty just because they saw one negative review, when in actual fact it's more likely an isolated case. And of course, the opposite is true as well. A single positive review doesn't reflect on an entire range either. The best thing to do is to figure out what things are important to you as you watch a review. What are you looking for in a model? And then when you watch those multiple reviews, you can start to form your own opinion based on the experiences of others, rather than just taking a single person's opinion as gospel. Likewise, stay informed and make sure that you're aware of when biases are in play. Like I said, it should be made clear, but as always, there are those who do skirt around the rules. Most importantly though, make your own mind up. I can give you the information, I can tell you my own thoughts on something, but when it comes down to it, the choice is always yours. If you don't agree with something I've said in a video, that's absolutely fine. With that in mind though, you also don't have to attack people for not sharing the same views as you. It is thankfully a minority of people who take that route, but it is certainly noticeable, for me at least, that review videos do seem to provoke that kind of reaction. Healthy debate and differing opinions is fine. Being deliberately spiteful just doesn't help anybody. But yeah, like I said, reviews can be helpful, but ultimately it comes down to your own opinion. And with that said, I think that's where we'll leave it for today. Hopefully this has been interesting for you guys. Maybe it shows you a little bit behind the scenes of how I approach reviews. And let me know if you'd like me to dive into things like this in more detail in the future. As I mentioned at the start of the video, I've actually got quite a few reviews that I'm working on at the moment, so stay tuned for those coming really soon. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out. We've actually had so many new subscribers join in the last couple of months, so yeah, please do come in and join the fun. In the meantime though, thank you so much for watching everyone, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!